I shot the Leica G1 for like a whole winter. I think I owned it for
Okay, so we have
about
to start over
what?
because it's not a Leica G1.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All
round
right.
two,
All
start.
right.
Okay,
All
go.
right. So I shot a Contax G1 for like a whole winter, maybe like 6 or 7 months before I sold it, and it was a really nice camera to have. Did you have the G2 or the G1? I think you.
I had a bunch of the G1s. I had like 4 or 5 of them. That was like
Yeah.
one of my favorite all-time little film cameras to have. Like, for people who don't know, Contax went belly up. Like, I want to say in the '90s they went out of business.
Yeah, they were
Once
making.
digital kind of started taking
I think that
over.
would make sense because all the Contax cameras I can think of are that horrible like golden brass '90s color.
Yeah, so that I think
Yeah.
that's when they kind of went up. But they were like a major competitor against Leica for that whole time from the, I don't know, maybe they started in the '60s or the '70s. I don't know exactly when, but all the
Yeah.
way into the '80s, and they made really high end cameras and lenses and stuff that the G1 and G2s. I think those were considered like best camera of the year
Where are
in
they?
one of the years.
In the
Yeah, in the
'90s?
G1 in the '90s,
Yeah.
and they also had a bunch of really great medium format cameras and
Yeah.
other film cameras that were like.
Yeah, the reason I bought a G1 is because I didn't want to spend too much money on a film camera. And, like, of course, there's the Leica M6, but this actually had autofocus, and the lenses are great. They're built by Zeiss, and they're
That's
very
the other
sharp.
thing, yeah, is they
Yeah.
had that agreement with Carl Zeiss. So Carl Zeiss made up the lenses for all the contact stuff, pretty much, and that made it awesome. Like
Yeah.
Zeiss makes
Yeah, I
fantastic
owned
glass,
the 28, the 45, and the 90.
and all
They
those
were all
lenses were
great.
autofocus
Yeah,
lenses.
they were
But
all.
you'd adjust the aperture on the body, right? Like on the
Yeah,
barrel
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
for sure.
lenses, but they would be autofocus
Yeah,
otherwise.
the only thing bad I have to say about the lenses is that they were a little bit noisy. So
They were noisy. Those are noisy lenses.
yeah,
They're really small though, and it kind of like that whole kit kind of reminds me of like what Fuji went on to be.
yeah. The 45 was regarded as one of the sharpest
Oh,
ever,
that
like
lens is
35
so good.
millimeter format
Yeah.
lenses for
Yeah, I
film.
really liked shooting that one in the '90s. Those two are pretty much always on one of the cameras. And
Yeah,
I usually had two of them with me when I was shooting film because I love those Contax cameras. They're just fantastic.
yeah, I like the 90 a lot too. The one thing I wasn't so excited about was the autofocus. On the 90, it would kind of focus back and forth.
Yeah, I would hunt a little more. And there'd be a parallax effect because the Contax G1 and G2 was like a rangefinder camera, but like a robotic kind of one, like everything inside of it. Like you didn't actually do any of the rangefinding or focusing yourself. The camera did it all
Yeah,
through
and
the
you
lens
only
and
had one
stuff.
autofocus point in the G1.
Yeah, you didn't have a ton of choices.
Yeah, so
So
you would
it focus,
yeah, you
recompose
focus
always.
and
Yeah.
recompose.
Yeah, but it still would work. Like
Yeah.
it would get really good focus. I would actually get better focus out of that camera than almost any other. The Canon had a couple of good ones. That
Yeah.
EOS 3 was pretty good.
Yeah, I like the 28 millimeter too. It was nice and sharp, and like it kind of. I read something about it that that said that it was a lens that they couldn't really make for 35 millimeter DSLRs at least. I think that they can.
The 45?
No, the 28.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So something about wider lenses on film was a little bit different because of the flange distance. So
Right.
it was a really nice lens, not too much distortion. I like that one a lot.
Yeah,
But
Zeiss has always been good at handling the distortion.
but yeah, I mean, I think the reason you buy the system is for the lenses for sure.
Totally. Or if you just want to have kind of an inexpensive, well, relatively inexpensive like film shooter, like if I was only going to have one film camera setup, I'd probably pick the Contax G2 with like the 35 or the 45.
Yeah, what I never shot the G2. What was the advantage to the G2 over the G1?
Had more focus points, and if it was a little bit bigger, it felt better in your hand and stuff. They're
Yeah.
way more expensive though. Like if you're on the market now, there's the G1 and the G2. Like the G1 is like less than half. Like it's a lot less. And there's some G1s that had problems. I recall like you'd want to make sure you got one that had, maybe it was a green sticker on the bottom of it or something, and that said it
Yeah,
was tested for.
Yeah, that was so weird. The 35 millimeter with the or the G1 with the green sticker,
Yeah.
it was the only one able to shoot the 35 millimeter lens.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, yeah. There's a
It had a certain
35 for the
firmware or
system too,
something?
but yeah, there's some sort of special thing that only
Yeah.
allows the green level.
Yeah, so
label
if you're looking
G1s.
for the 35, you probably want to get either that special labeled one and make sure you get it, or you want to get the G2.
Yeah,
I'd probably get the G. Another thing that was really cool about the G2 is you could get it in black, and you could get the 35 millimeter lens in black. So that was, because the thing about the G1 and the G2, if you haven't ever seen it before, is it's kind of like a, I don't know, you call that rose gold. It's like a gold. It's kind of
It's
like
like 90s gold.
It's like C3PO gold looking.
Yeah.
Like it's weird, you
Yeah.
know. Like it's that part takes a little bit of time to get used to, but once you overcome the color of the camera, you're like, wow, the results I get out of this thing are great.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nice and small. I remember that winter that I had this set up, I paid $700 for the G1 with all the lenses, and I just hauled the 28, the 45, and the 90 millimeter around with me pretty much everywhere in a little Ona bag, and it's a great
It's a
like
great
travel
everyday
setup.
shooter too.
Yeah.
Except for you got to pay for all the film and all the developing and stuff. So that's the one downside, and you don't get the instant gratification, but you also get like, you get to enjoy that you have a film camera. You don't get the instant
with
gratification,
autofocus,
which
too.
is nice. And yeah, you get the
Yeah.
stuff you're used to now that gives autofocus. But also, there's something nice about just filling up a bunch of cameras with film, and then eventually developing them and being like, wow, this was a great time in my life, or wow, these pictures were fantastic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, some of my favorite images I've ever shot for like personal work are just film. So
Yeah, on film cameras. So yeah, that Contax is a great. If I was going to say one of my favorite all-time film cameras, I would definitely consider that in the running with a few others.
Yeah. I would recommend that camera for really anybody wanting to get into film, and then I would also
Or maybe doing some like street stuff.
yeah, for sure,
You
just
can
any
make
sort
some
of
pretty
personal
cool
work.
street stuff, especially
Yeah.
if you're like looking for like films in the film stock to make your street look. That's great. Like that's a really cool camera.
Yeah, and I would recommend all the three lenses I had too. They were all really good, really sharp,
Yeah,
especially
the lenses
for
were so good.
yeah the 28. I love that lens. It had a nice perspective. I love 28 millimeters, nice and sharp. The 45, regarded as one of the best, film lenses ever made, and
Yeah,
you're
that
not
lens
paying
is
like a
crazy
prices
good.
for it. And then the 90
And 45
millimeter,
gives you a little more than 50 too, so like you
Yeah.
could walk around with that thing all day.
yeah, the 90 millimeter wasn't like crazy sharp like
It was
the
so good at portraits though. Like I used
Yeah.
lots of portrait shots out of it as a wedding photographer because I used it for engagement shoots all the time.
yeah the 90 millimeter might not be as highly regarded, but it was nice and small,
Yeah,
and
really small.
easy to carry around, and at f2 it was enough to get some nice bokeh. The one thing I don't like about the G1 and the lenses that came with it is that the bokeh always was like a little bit rough compared to
Yeah, not quite as good as
Yeah.
what you're used to now.
I mean, personally, I'd say that's probably the only downside that.
But it still looked nice. It really has
Yeah.
like a really nice kind of. I mean, it's film, so whatever film you put into it, it's gonna really take on that look.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and I could see a lot of street photographers that shoot at f8 all the time loving the setup.
Yeah.
Or if you're not like shooting like anything that you're gonna sell or something, like there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of busy bokeh. Can you think of any downsides about the camera?
Not really. It eats a lot of batteries. Like if I was gonna have one of those and use it all the time, I'd probably consider getting rechargeable batteries for it. They make some rechargeables for it, so I'd probably look on the market for that. It does eat batteries, and of course, then you have film, which is an upside and a downside depending on.
Yeah, it's
Nice,
going to cost
yeah.
you more, but you don't have to edit all the photos, and you can shoot
Right.
some personal work. That's what I use.
And
it
you
for.
can just shoot it and get around to it later. Like you don't have to like rush on it. Like I feel like with my digital files, I got to get them off my camera and
Yeah.
be done
So
with it.
so if you're a photographer who is looking at film setups that are relatively small, that have nice lenses, save yourself a couple of $1,000s, and maybe don't go for the Leica right away. Maybe buy the Leica down the road and start out with the
Yeah.
Contax G1. I think
Yeah,
that's
try the Contax.
Yeah.
It's rocking camera.
yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, this was photo footage on the Contax G1. Go ahead and like and comment and subscribe down below, and we'll see you next time.